Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. With me, as always, on Mondays is my good friend, Michele Berra. Michele, what's up?
Well, it's summer league time. It's the off season. It's Monday, so it's a happy day.
Yes. I got back from Vegas last night, super late. I didn't plan on doing this, but we left, probably like 8 a.m. Vegas time. We're driving. We get past Albuquerque, driving from Vegas to OKC. I thought, okay, we're in Albuquerque a little bit sooner than I thought we would be. Let's just keep going. And we ended up doing the whole 16-hour trip in one shot. And I haven't decided if I regret that or not yet, but it happened, and we're here today. Probably wouldn't be here right now if I didn't. So I guess that's good for everybody else. So
Yeah, I mean, I did it last week, coming back from the southern part of Italy. We planned to have maybe 6 hours, then a stop, and then the day after, like another 6 hours. But then it was like 9 p.m. and I said, 9 plus 6 is 3 a.m. Do I really want to stop here? Wake up super early, having the kids probably not in a great mood.
yeah,
Let's just keep going. Keep going.
yeah,
So it's it was like a 12 hours, but I can relate.
yeah, it's brutal. But here we are. Shout out to all the dunkers that I saw in Vegas. Saw lots of Down to Dunk listeners there. There was a big loyal fan section for the Thunder game on Saturday, which ended up being a mega bummer because they lost by a ton to the Raptors. But it was really fun to meet lots of people and to see familiar faces as well. And so shout out to everybody that I got to talk to, got to hand out some Down to Dunk stickers, got to hang out with some people. So it was an amazing time. Just would recommend to any NBA fan to go to Vegas. It's just an incredible time. So from that Raptors game, they lost 94-69. It was a rough one, especially from the jump. They could just not buy a bucket in that game. But our guy Adam Flagler was actually the guy that got them back into this one and played pretty well. Any leftover thoughts from that particular game, Michele?
I mean, it was a game where everything felt like short and just a little bit out of sync, which, it's the fourth game in 6 nights, or roughly that.
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit of, hey, we have a little bit of heavy legs. We are missing our best guy, Usman Jang. It happens, those are stuff that can be on a summer league game. I think that I liked the approach of AJ Mitchell anyway, because he was doing the proper things. By the way, I have my camera that is completely skewed. I will not try to fix it on the pod. It will be worse. But next time, my back, it will be straight. I promise. So anyhow, it's a little bit off, like the Dillon Jones shots from that game, just a little bit off. So it's, I mean, the efficiency of guys like Mitchell was okay. I would say very good in Utah. Was not in the first game of summer league. I mean, I don't want to put a lot into that. Maybe Toronto had a little bit more of a defensive core, maybe. But also, I mean, those were like very, very weird misses. The process was very good. It was just maybe a little bit of touch lacking. Dillon Jones, I'm a little bit perplexed about the. Yeah, I mean, I listened to many draft pods, analysts talking about Dillon Jones. Sam Vecini was the vocal, maybe the most vocal, saying that he does not believe that he could replicate what he did in college in the NBA. It's very early to say that. But as I said in the first Under After Dark I did after the first game, it's clear why you can have doubts that this could work, because the efficiency or lack thereof is pretty apparent. Like, this is going to be something that Dillon Jones has to fix in order to be in a rotation. Mm-hmm. And I also think that on defense, I mean, you can see the flashes, you can see that he can defend, but there were like too many moments where it's just, that was mine. Like I don't particularly like that. I think it's an adjustment time. There are players who maybe are terrible for a few games and then they really adjust. I really want to see that. Not very. I mean, the efficiency can come later, but the hey, I'm good on and off ball. It's something that Dylan Jones has to figure out immediately if he wants to be part of the rotation. I think that AJ Mitchell was much better on that end. Flagler, I mean, having another guy who seems that can shoot the basketball at a pretty high level, and I don't know if he can really stay on the court defensive wise. It doesn't seem really the case. But I mean, if you want to have a chance in the league, like starting by making a huge amount of shots is a good idea. So I really like that. I mean, I like the fact that he's not afraid of taking them and is pretty quick at doing that. Is most of the time he's on the right spot on offense. He really manufacture 3-pointers by like being in the right spot. So I really like that. And it's probably why OKC kept him on a 2-way, because I mean it makes sense to have a guy like that compared to a guy like Keontae who had like a very bad summer league, I would say. It was just, I mean, again, inefficient, not very physical on defense. I mean, at least Dylan Jones has this. You can clearly picture why. I mean, you can clearly picture why it may not work, but you also can clearly see that the vision and the rebound and the fact that he's not afraid to take shots, those are traits that I can see working, even if he will not be an on-ball guy. I mean, those stuff, like I can grab, I can go, I can pass in transition. Those are stuff that an NBA team needs.
Yeah, I like Dylan Jones. He's the kind of player that I like because he has good size. He can pass. He can do all kind of the little things. The thing I think will hold him back, especially early on, is just the defensive stuff that you talked about. I worry about like screen navigation in particular for him is going to be tough, especially if he's asked to play defense on the perimeter.
Yeah.
The league is just so hard. And the Thunder have some of the best screen navigators in the NBA. And so if he can take the time to get in camp and learn from guys like Dort, Kaysen, and guys like that, because they're like some of the best in the NBA. Whereas with Dylan, you can just see that there's just going to be some issues, and some of it could just be like legitimate quickness for him, and it's going to be hard for him to overcome that. But we're talking about the 26th pick in the draft. We're talking about a guy that is going to be like a bench player for them.
Yeah.
And if everything works out, like his potential could be sky high, but like he's got a lot of work to do, and he knows that. Like he's very well aware of that. We talked to him. The thing about Dylan is like you just get to talk to him for just a few minutes. You can just tell like he like really wants this really bad, and he wants to work for it. He knows he hasn't arrived. He is very humble. He's as just like a person, he's really easy to talk to, and he's pretty great. And so like there's just like a lot to like about him personally. And then his game is so funky. Like it's just such a weird game. Like there's not a really good comp for him because he's like this thicker guard that is like a pretty good live dribble passer, pretty good at getting into the paint, but is inefficient for the most part. He's not like the greatest defender, I think, and you talked about this. Like people want to make the Draymond comp just because he's like thicker, pass and stuff. The defensive stuff is just not there with him as of today.
Draymond was the meanest, more impactful rookie that I've seen in a while. I mean, he was playing very little minutes. In those minutes, you could really feel him. I mean, I remember in the playoffs, I think it was Golden State against the Clippers, the CP3 Clippers. He was just all over the place. He was not starting that in that moment. He was just a bench guy behind David Lee, and it was those kind of warriors. And it was a menace. I vividly remember. I mean, wow. I was doing. I said this on the Dream Team show. I was doing scouting for a second league in Italy. So it was not like, and at the time, like the roster spot were not so available for second round picks, and so Draymond Green was mocked to be a guy in the 30s, and those guys you could really lure them to Italy and to Europe at the
Yeah.
time. So I was saying to the coach, hey coach, this guy is fantastic. I mean, he can shoot the three, not very efficiently, but who cares? It's Europe, and he's defensively he's all over the place. And he told me, yeah, I love him. He's not going to come. I said, why not? I mean, no, not that. He will stay there. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, here's the deal. Like I think that Draymond is a one of one. And like trying to compare him to other guys is unfair. And it happens every year with every draft. It's like, okay, it's a funky player that has these few traits. Well, he's got to be this guy. It's how many times have we compared like these young, raw, rangy wings to Giannis? And it's like, yeah. I mean, listen, it's not going to happen. Like,
nope.
There's one Giannis. There's one. Nobody else is going to be him. It's just not going to happen. So I like Dylan. I am rooting for him. I hope that it works for him. But there's a lot of work to be done. And the good thing for him is that he's got time. He's on a regular rookie scale contract. He's going to get a chance to play with the Blues some. I think he'll get some roster minutes as well. I think that he might be. I mean, I think AJ Mitchell may have a chance as well to get some roster minutes here and there. Mm-hmm. But I would guess that Dylan might be the only one that like gets a legit shot this year. But for the most part, like these minutes are being taken. This team is a little bit deeper than they were last year, and they still have a lot of players. I think a guy like Kenrich Williams gets a little bit lost in the shuffle when it comes to this. Like, is it a guarantee that Dylan Jones is going to be better than Kenrich Williams this year? I would say like probably not. Like,
no,
probably not be better than Kenrich.
And Kenny was not on the court, which is your point, I think.
Yes.
Like, and again, supposedly in 2 years, you discovered you overpaid with 5 second rounders, a guy named Dylan Jones, and he never played a minute in the NBA. Who cares? Like, this is the nature of teams that have, in this current moment in space, a lot of abundance in terms of resources. OKC knows today that if they are good enough, they will need assets, but they cannot use all the assets that they have in a proficient way. So piling up seconds that are maybe good, maybe bad, maybe middle of the pack to say, okay, I really want to try that guy. This is a luxury that you should have if you did your homework in the past. And so I really think that these are stuff that are good. So I don't have, they got basically AJ Mitchell for cash and a contract. Like, if you think about having with 5 second rounders and Lindy 2 players that you want to try out, that is good. So I really don't mind just taking those flyers and see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, taking flyers on skilled guards that are kind of funky is not a bad idea. And I think it's easier to see like AJ's path to being like a backup guard in the NBA, I think, than it is to figure out what Dylan looks like, because I think it's going to take a specific situation, but I do think the Thunder are a good situation for him. So anything else summer league wise?
Reed Shepard.
Holy smokes, man. He has been unbelievable.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch. I really hope that he pans out. I'm so sick that he's in Houston. I mean, I would root for him on basically any other franchise. With Houston, I can just root for him in summer league, and that's basically it. I mean, I just love the type of player. It may be just summer league, and it has been awesome anyway. Like, I don't need it to be perfect for the rest of his career. I think that he has a legit chance to be something in this draft, in general in the league. But nice to start off this way. I watched some Wizards.
Yes.
Keyshawn George, the first game was terrible.
Yeah,
like,
really rough.
Just he took a 3 and he just got nothing but the backboard. Is it, who's this guy? It seems Keontae George or whatever. Keyshawn George, sorry. But yeah, I mean, nice. Sar looks defensively something. I don't understand people who says he should play the 4. I mean, I think that he should play the 5 immediately because he has no idea how to be a 4 on offense.
Too hard. Yeah. The 4 is so much harder than the 5 a lot of times in the NBA.
On offense?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
On both sides.
Yeah, possibly. Depending on.
But you ask him to defend. You basically have to defend wings. If you're a 4.
But that is something that I think he may be able to do. I just don't think that he can be anything on offense. So just pick and pop sometimes, do some dunks, and it's much easier if you do it at the 5. He's not slim, like he's much bulkier than Chet. So I've yet to see Buzelis.
Buzelis had a great game. Buzelis looked good. Yeah.
Okay.
Bub looked good as well. Talking about
that I saw. Yeah.
Yeah. Bub looked great.
Yeah, he was shooting. He has a very weird leg pose when he takes threes, like very wide.
Yeah.
But it goes in, and he was in rhythm. So I really like that.
It's been going in. R.I.P. the Bub and Dub era.
Yeah.
What could have been? Bub and Dub. Team USA played Team Australia. I watched a little bit of it, a little bit of the second half this afternoon.
Tell me about it.
The
I
Aussies,
watched grand total 0 seconds.
The Aussies kept it close. The Team USA only won 98-92 in this game. The Aussies were just everywhere defensively. They were awesome. Just playing so hard. They would trap every pick and roll. They would try to trap it. Anytime the Team USA tried to get the ball into the mid post a ton, and it just was so bad. Like they could not get a whole lot out of it. And then, or it was like an Anthony Edwards, just trying to cook. And the defense was good enough for Australia for them to stick with it. USA pulled away there at the end. It wasn't particularly close at the end. But Josh Giddey had 17, 8, and 7 in this one. He was 7 of 17 from the field, so not particularly efficient. 0 of 1 from 3. But had a nice game. He smoked a layup there at the end of the game that could have gotten the lead down. But anyways, it's a friendly. It's like whatever. But it is interesting to see because there's some people out there like, oh, Team USA is just going to dominate every. That never happens. Like, despite you can look at the rosters and say like this roster should even the second unit should absolutely destroy Team Australia, and they should. But like that's not how international basketball has ever worked. Like it's never, at least in the last several years, has not been just like a cakewalk for the U.S. Despite the talent discrepancy.
Can I make like a track and field comparison similarity?
Please.
It's like the 4x100 relay. You have like Jamaica, you have USA, and those have the best talents by far. Who is almost all the time in the top 8 worldwide?
I don't know anything about track and field. You're just going to have to just.
Can you guess? You have 3 guesses.
Who's in the top? Team USA.
No, besides Jamaica and Team USA, those are always in the finals. But like weird nation that can be in that competition.
I just don't have any idea, Michele. I'm just sitting here with
Japan. Like, can you figure out Japan in a like very, very fast competition? there is no guy from Japan who is in the finals of the 100 meters, not maybe even in the semifinals. So how it works, they practice the switches between the two, the passage of this stuff that you have in your hand
On,
between
yeah.
the two. So they actually are so good at in preparation and in like execution that they are very close, much closer than the sum of their talents. This is what is happening in the Olympics. I mean, the Aussies and other nations, they are really, really going for it. Whereas I think that sometimes when you see like USA basketball playing, it's more like, hey, we're so much better, we'll figure it out. Which in some cases it happens. In others, I mean, it's like how in the last Olympics, the team that was talent-wise very good and also did a lot of preparation was Italy. It was the proudest moment of an Italian guy watching them winning the relay and the 100 meter. So anyhow, I think that this is the case, and yeah, I mean it's a bummer because they can play extremely well if they want. They have like a perfect roster: Anthony Davis, Kevin Durant, the 4 and the 5. It's a recipe to win any game by like a gazillion point, but you have to leverage your skills instead of playing the high post and stuff like that. You need to bomb all the time, creating space. I mean, good friend of the pod, Sport Fan 405, sent me like a recap of how the Boston Celtics won the NBA title by just taking a crap ton of threes and like playing all the volume 3-point shooters a lot, which is a very nice showing that of a concept that we are just discussing from the past, like, I don't know, 5 years, but they actually implement it. I think that Team USA should do the exact same, like just leverage your enormous skills from deep to create space for guys like Kent and also AD to just cook. And this could also be a recipe for how to concoct lineups for the Thunder next season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good transition. We're going to talk about Thunder lineups here right after this quick break. And we're back after that quick break. Michele, I'm so intrigued with what the Thunder are going to do next year. I think that they have clearly upgraded their roster. You can't find one national personality in the NBA that doesn't think that the Thunder are like clear winners of the offseason, that their team is going to be better than last year. You know, you remove the Josh Giddey element of the team where they're like trying to figure something out. Well, you add an Alex Caruso. It's very easy to fit him onto any team in the NBA. And so you add him, you add Hartenstein, who is like one of the best backup centers in the league. You kind of upgrade a spot that was a little weak for you last year. And you also give like a different look to your team, which I think is a really good thing for them. And then you have around basically your top 3 guys, your role players are Hartenstein, Caruso, Lou Dort, Casey Wallace, Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins. Like the traits of like all of those guys, Kenrich Williams, Jay Will. The traits of all those guys is really interesting personality wise, and it's that they are all unselfish.
Yeah.
Not one of those guys that you can sit and say they're going to demand a certain role, they're going to demand a certain anything. I think they're all very much on board with trying to help this team win basketball games, and have all of them have traits that support the 3 guys, whether that's defensively, offensively. Some of those guys, it's both. Some of those guys, like Casey Wallace, have an upward trajectory that is still yet to be discovered. A guy like Alex Caruso has probably maximized who he can be as an NBA player, but he's a really good one. And so I am so intrigued with one, how do they start? And like, what are the lineups that they can use? Did I mention Isaiah Joe? I think I mentioned Isaiah Joe. I just want to make sure that I said his name.
Yeah, let's read out loud the minutes per game last year so that we have like a frame of reference to discuss.
Yeah,
Shea was at 34.
Mm-hmm.
J-Dub at 31, Chet Holmgren at 29.4. I don't think that those will vary a lot. I think that both Jalen and Shea will be in the low 30. Chet Holmgren maybe a tad higher. Lou Dort at 28 is number 4. I think that that number is going down. Not by a ton,
Such
but
a
I would
hit.
expect that
So,
to be
so on brand for you.
no. It's actually how should we maximize Lou Dort as a key role, a key player
Yeah.
in this rotation and in this on this team. I think that the sweet spot for him it's around 25 minutes. I'm just cutting 3 minutes. Can you call me a hater for that? Come on. Josh Giddey, 25 minutes. It's a 0, clearly, and it's 80 game of 25 minutes. So there's a lot of minutes there. Kaysen Wallace was at 20. I think that you could easily say, some of Lou Dort minutes can go there, and maybe just he will be better. So I bank him for him to be a little bit higher. Then you have Joe and Wiggins around 18 and 16, and then you have Kenny at 15 basically, and then Jalen Williams at 13. I don't think that Hartenstein will play less than 25. So
I think that's probably right.
maybe a hair less. So I do think that there is not a ton of space, not a ton of players to get minutes from because you need, say that Giddey and Hartenstein are basically just a draw. You can say that Jalen Williams minutes will go down, yes, to spots minutes, but then you need to find minutes for Alex Caruso, which will not be easy. I do think the top 9 will be way more stable than what we anticipate. There will be maybe less games played by guys like Chet Holmgren. Maybe he will play 75, 74. They will put rest minutes here and there for all the starters so that many players can circle in and out. But I do think that the top 9, which excludes Kenrich Williams, excludes Ousmane Dieng, will be pretty steady throughout the season.
Yeah, you just know. I mean, part of the way that the Thunder got to the win total that they had last year, and part of the way that they just executed their rotations is that when Ousmane Dieng played, he played 11 minutes a game. You got minutes for Micic in there last year. You got minutes for
Gordon Hayward.
Gordon Hayward got minutes. I just think like they're going to find ways to just give minutes. I think, like you said, the top 9 from last year, I think that basically Kenrich Williams was like the last guy to get over 1,000 minutes last year. Kenrich Williams, Joe, Wallace, Giddey, Dub, Dort, Chet, and Shea. I think like you sub in Caruso probably for the Kenrich minutes, and then you sub in Hartenstein in for the Giddey minutes. And I'm not saying like Hartenstein is for sure getting 2,000, Caruso's getting 1,000. I think like it's probably a little bit less for Hartenstein and a little bit more for Caruso. Like those are your top 9. But then you had several guys play over 100 minutes in the season. Trey Mann played over 100 minutes, which seems improbable, but he did. Lindy Waters played almost 300. Micic played 360. Dieng played 365. Hayward played almost 500 minutes. Jay Will almost 900 minutes. They're going to find time for these guys.
Sure. What I meant was you have basically here 9 and 10 this year. Last year Kenrich and Jalen Williams. I think that probably Caruso will eat a lot of those minutes. Caruso and Hartenstein. So you'll have those 9 guys to be the guys that would own 15 or more per game. And then you will have guys like Oos on a maybe 30, 35 game at 10 minutes per game. You have Kenrich, similar stuff. You have Dylan, similar stuff. I don't say that there will not be guys circled in as a 10th, 11th, 12th man. I'm saying I think that those 9 guys will play. And then the others will be fill in. Like, this is your night. This is not your night. This night Shea will rest. Let's put in AJ Mitchell as your guy off the bench.
Yep.
and the crunch is already here. Topic will play next year, so it's such an interesting season to see how this team blend together. But speaking of lineups, what is your guess for who starts?
I feel like I'm all over the place with this because it's not.
You have to pick one.
To me, it's not clear who it should be. Like it's just not abundantly clear. But I think that I think that they'll start small with Caruso in the Giddey spot, would be my guess. And then they'll play some minutes with Hartenstein and Chet, and then Hartenstein will mostly just be the backup. That's kind of what I think. But I think it could be either. I think that it could be Hartenstein or Caruso in for Giddey. I think both make sense, but they're both so vastly different too. I guess I lean the Caruso lineup just because they've talked so much about Chet being so important at the 5. And like they've emphasized that last year, and Presti mentioned it in his season-ending presser, talking about how they played 2% of their minutes with double bigs, and it ended up getting them the best defense in the league. And you essentially swap in Caruso, who's just a much better player than Giddey within this team. Not necessarily like if you put like the 2K sliders, like you could convince me that Giddey's like a better player overall. But I think we're talking about fit with this roster. It's just obvious that Caruso is a better player for this team, a better defender, a better shooter. I think that he's going to fit so well with these guys. The only issue is like the rebounding there. Like the rebounding with that team minus Giddey plus Caruso is going to be even worse. But you add Hartenstein in there, like that changes things to a pretty massive degree. So I don't know. I'll probably flip-flop on that throughout the summer, and then we'll figure it out once we get into the preseason, into the season. But I think that there's not a lineup that I look at and say, it's obvious that this is what it should be. And this obvious, this is the way they should go. I think like they have a lot of different paths that they could go with the starting lineup.
I agree that all these lineups that we discussed, like the Hartenstein instead of Giddey or Caruso instead of Giddey, I've adventured. You could also think about a lineup that starts a different guy in it, like maybe Isaiah Joe, Case and Wallace. I don't see that as really a thing. Maybe not to start with the year, because it's it's unlikely to me. The reason why I like the Hartenstein pick with the starters a lot, it's not about the way in which you start this game. It's more about the way in which you transition from the starting unit to the second unit, which, assuming that Shea is a guy who likes to play almost the entire first quarter, I really want to see Shea playing with Chet a little bit more as the lone big with a full spaced shooting the lights out kind of lineup, and having in the second unit starting the second quarter a guy like Hartenstein who can really be the focal point of a J-Dub led second unit with Cason Wallace, with Caruso, who are like extremely high level defender, whereas Lu Dort can play in a high level offensive unit to close the first quarter, which was not the case. Lu was one of the guys who like left the floor at the beginning of in the middle of the first quarter, because you need to play Giddey with Shea to have something from Giddey. So I do think that you can play, like you can close the first quarter with a lineup that has Shea, Dort, Isaiah Joe, Wiggins, and Chet Holmgren. That unit will not have any issue in terms of offense. And then you circle in Caruso, you circle in Hartenstein, you circle in J-Dub. You can sit Shea, Dort, and one of Wiggins or Joe, depending on the night. And you bring in Cason Wallace. It's a second unit that really makes sense alongside without Shea on the court. You can do the same, like you can bring in Hartenstein off the bench if you allow Shea to start second quarters, which can also be a thing.
Yeah,
which has been a thing, I think, in the postseason. There were
Mm,
moments where J-Dub was the guy who closed the first quarter. So it's more about that, in my opinion, than who starts. I really love, though, the idea of having Cherungen and Shea sharing the court a lot together.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I do too. I also just am so fascinated with what this team looks like with a legitimate screener on it.
Yeah. And passer. I mean, and
Yeah.
like a mid-post passer. I didn't hear or listen to any analyst, which maybe if there is some technician like Steve Jones, he can help us with that, but
Mhm.
discussing how OKC's offense against the zone can change with a guy like Hartenstein on the court.
Totally.
I would really love to hear to pick Steve Jones' brain on this thing, because I think that he opens up so much. I mean, too many times when you don't have five shooters, which can be the case with Shea and Chad on the court, but
Mm-hmm.
as soon as you don't have that, if someone puts a zone on you, then you really need to have a mid-post passer, which Hartenstein is. And
Yeah.
so I really do think that one of the issues, it was not really an issue. I mean, OKC attacked the zone pretty okay, but it can maximize even that. Where if you put it on a zone, OKC will kill you. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot put that on. And I mean, zone is not just putting a clank on how the team attacks you. It's also resting a little bit more on defense, which gives you double the advantage. If you cannot do that, if you need all the time to run around to stay with OKC, it helps OKC immensely.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really good point in that I think like some of the issues that the Thunder had were last year offensively were some of the cross matching that they had to figure out, which they honestly like started to use it to their advantage toward the end of the season, especially in the regular season. It started to work really well for them. And teams actually stopped cross matching with them because the Thunder had figured it out so well. Um, but I do think like Hartenstein as like a hub with like cutters is going to be a real weapon for them. And so
Yeah.
it is exciting to think about those possibilities, especially with second units with guys like Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins, who just like feast off of those kinds of opportunities. I
Yeah.
think that Hardenstein is going to be great for those guys, as he was for guys like Josh Hart and Deuce
Yeah.
McBride and players like that. I think really helped. Were helped by Hardenstein. Hardenstein was there in person in Vegas, by the way, sitting courtside
Yeah.
with
I saw
with
him.
with had J-Dub there, they had Chet, and then Case and Wallace. We're all sitting courtside. And I asked Dylan Jones, like, is there anything going through your head when you see those guys sitting courtside? And he just got the biggest smile on his face. And I posted the video on my Twitter account. It's worth watching. And he just there's still a part of him that is like almost like childlike, where he's like, it's like part of me. I just can't believe that those guys are my teammates now. Like that, those are my brothers now. You know, it was pretty cool to see. I thought it was a really cool reaction and kind of like just
Wasn't
a
it the same?
hmm?
Was it the same for you the first time you went to Vegas and you actually did a podcast with your buddies at the Athletic?
Like
I mean,
just
I reminded you like being so like smiley and whatnot.
oh my gosh, man, it is so much fun. It truly is. And I talked to Flagler after the game too, and it was his first summer league. His first time to be in Vegas for summer league ever.
Yeah.
You know, he missed last year because he had the injury, and he just talked about how surreal it was for him
Mhm.
to be there. And it's definitely that way. And like now, like I've been several times now, but it's still just if you love basketball, it's just like the coolest environment. It is just the coolest place. But it's just cool to see those guys, like just to be still pretty wide eyed and just excited to be a part of it. It's just so cool. It's just really
It's
cool. And
also cool
yeah,
for them to be there, like to for
I know.
Casey, for Hart, for Chad and Dub to be there.
Mhm.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And for the Raptors too, Scotty Barnes is sitting courtside, Emmanuel Quickley's over there. They've got some of their guys too. So it's just like overall, just like the support around the entire league that exists over summer league, and just these guys' willingness to take part is pretty awesome. And it makes for just like this. It's just a one of a kind environment. I'll say that. There's just nothing like it. If you are a fan, you just got to find a way to go at least once.
Yeah.
Because it's just, and you've been a couple times. I mean, it's just incredible. It's just such a fun time.
Yeah. I've been there 2 times. One was the Kevin Knox Summer League. I remember podcasting with you from one, like, I think the third ring on the Thomas and Mack while Kevin Knox was playing. It was like a wild moment. But anyhow, it was a blessing. I mean, I was there to actually try to make my way into professional scouting, which did not happen. But I had like access, and it was like fantastic. I mean, you could really talk to anybody in a hallway. Like, I had like a software to propose like some stats to show, and I could really, I will not name names, but I could really stop anybody and say, hey, have you seen this stat from this player? Do you mind sitting with me 5 minutes so that I can show you? But even if you're not that, like, you can just be there and maybe find, I don't know, Andrew Schlecht in the hallway and just say hi and talk to him 5 minutes. It's fantastic. It's maybe the first 3 days is where you can see many of the guys. The remainder of the week is less and less. But if you're there in the last few days, maybe you don't see as many NBA personalities. But if you really want to like know European scouts and stuff like that, if you're someone that lives in Europe and wants maybe to have a connection with teams over there, like, Europeans send all their scouts there, because from summer league rosters you get a lot of players to Europe. So that is also, I remember speaking with a crazy smart, I don't remember the name, assistant coach from Lokomotiv Moscow. We were just clicking on computers, sitting side by side, and then we perked through the relative computer and said, oh, what are you doing? Show me. And we just spent maybe 3 hours discussing analytics, techniques, developments, just like with no agenda, just talking basketball for 3 hours, exchanging numbers. We never talked again, but it was a moment where, like, that you can have just there. Like, how many times you can talk with someone that is coaching a pro team in Russia? I mean, right now probably never, but another team in Europe probably. So it's a place that as you said, at least once, just try out.
Yeah, definitely. And if the Thunder keep doing this, like, loyal fan section too, it was pretty cool. Hopefully next time they get a better game, because it was just kind of a bummer game for the loyal fan section to be at, because there were maybe just like a few moments to cheer for, and it felt like they were going to make a run there, because they cut it to single digits, and then the Raptors like just went on like a 12-0 run.
Yeah, with Flagler bombing from anywhere.
God, that was awesome. That was so fun. That was so much fun.
Those are just relaxed threes from him. It's a weird way. It seems like, hey, I'm taking this splash. Like, it's amazing. Yeah,
I wonder, like, what if he, they have this extra roster spot. He seems like a guy that, like we talked about, like, there's already not enough minutes for the guys that are on the back end of the roster today. He's a guy that's like worked really hard, and I just wonder if he gets promoted at some point this year to,
Yeah, at some point this year. Yes.
He's like the Lindy Waters of this team or something,
Yeah.
I could see it. And if he can like really shoot it like that, he can really
really be their Lindy Waters.
You can find a place in the league like that. Like, if you can shoot it, you can find a place in the league. Like, I don't see why not. But
I mean, Beat Krejci has found like a place in the league.
yeah, he got a contract. Good for him.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, 4 years.
Yeah. I don't know what the
Weird.
guarantees are, but yeah.
Weird.
He played a lot for them down the stretch when they were not good. But yeah, next year is going to be fascinating. One, like what happens with this Clippers pick, I think is going to be so interesting. Like what happens there?
It'll be picking the 20s now that Jordan Mill is there.
Hey, you never know. He's been crazy in summer league.
Yeah.
Like he's got the green light.
He took 10 trees in the first game and 1 in the second. Like,
yeah, that's
how? I need to watch. Just watch like a few seconds of it.
Yeah, but anyways, I mean, the Thunder have this pick that I think is just so intriguing, and you just never know what happens. Kawhi already had to withdraw from Team USA because of his knee injury, and it's just not him. People are saying that like he just doesn't look good, and so
yeah,
would it shock anybody if he missed a huge chunk of the season, and they're fighting to get into the play-in, and they miss, and even if it's like pick 12 or something or pick 11,
let's get immediately greedy. What if it's pick number 4?
Yeah,
it cannot be. I think it can be just 1, 2, 3, or the actual place.
No,
but anyhow, let's
just say it's number 1. Let's just say like
no, number 1 is too much. Question for you. I got it on the last. I don't remember if it was DTD or Dream Team, possibly DTD.
Mm-hmm.
You can pick only one: drafting Cooper Flag or winning a title next year. To me, it's like winning a title immediately. Like it's not even a thing.
Oh man. So like the assumption there is like, okay, you're just guaranteeing yourself one, which is probably the right thing to do. It's probably the right thing to do. But
okay.
But here's the deal. Cooper Flag is probably the exact perfect player to finish this roster with. Like he's probably the ideal player.
Yeah.
Like crazy defender, athletic as all get out. Great passer. Knows how to play the game the right way. I watched him at the in-season tournament. There was a game and he didn't like stand out as like I'm going to go get a bucket and I'm going to put it on your head, kind of guy, which he can do that. But he was just like the craziest super role player you'd ever see.
Yeah.
And if he was on this team, one, you'd have this like white American backcourt, which would just be, or front court, I mean, which would just be hilarious. But they would be unbelievable. And they would win titles. They'd probably win more than one title. So give me Cooper Flag.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think
I would lean that
that would be the most talented team in the league, and you have like the sustainable runway with them. Now Cooper's gonna have to be good right at out the jump, but he's practicing with Team USA, and everything that's saying about him is like, okay, he's probably going to be ready to go pretty quick.
Yeah.
So he's 17. I mean, he's 17 right now. Like the runway that you have with, I mean, just think about like you have Shea, J-Dub. You put Caruso in there. Just give me one more white American guy. Cooper Flag and Chet. Like that's crazy. Like that is a crazy lineup. And we're talking about this is like where the genius of Presti is that's actually a possibility. Now this is like a shot in the dark. Like it's probably not going to happen. But you can't say that it's not. That it's absolutely not going to happen.
It is a possibility.
It's
like a
a
real
very,
one.
very slim possibility. Like it's so slim that we can't dream about it for too long. Like we can't get that. We can't be that greedy. But you can also just say that like with the work that Sam Presti has done up to this point, for him to actually give this team a chance for that to be a reality, like no other contender has that kind of reality. The Thunder
It's true.
are a contender. There is not another contender that has that reality for themselves right now. There just isn't. There's some good teams that have traded for picks that could possibly get there. But we're talking about true contenders. There's not another contender that has that reality at their feet. And it's because of like the work that Presti did on the front end of this rebuild that is now going to reap rewards. And now it's probably going to be, if it's maybe like the 13th pick or something, is probably more likely of what it could do, which is still like unbelievable to get a chance to get a lottery pick whenever you're really good. But just giving
the
yourself
the fourth year in a row. I mean, Jang
Isn't that
and
wild?
J-Dub, Kazin, Topic.
Isn't that wild?
It is wild. But anyhow, if you say you can get Cooper Flag or only one title, I might lean Flag. But that winning a title is extremely hard. Extremely hard.
It
and
is.
it's not. I mean, health is the most uncontrollable variable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and again, I'm probably risk adverse, so I would just get one, having it a parade, and then figure out later. Maybe I cannot get a Cooper Flag, but I can get the best for on the market. Maybe.
Yeah. I'm so excited. One, I'm just excited for this team this next year, period. Like it's going to be so much fun. But then just the fact that we get to continue to cover the draft in a meaningful way throughout your team being good. I mean, that's like basketball podcaster heaven. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable. Just what a ridiculous position they put themselves in. So, all right. We will have podcasts for you this week. Rylan Stiles is joining for the Wednesday show to discuss. We are going to do a 2022 redraft on that day. So prepare yourselves for that. Got some pretty wild takes on that one, to be honest. And then we will have a show for you for the Fry Pod as well. So hope everybody's doing great. Appreciate you guys listening. It was great to meet the Dunkers in Vegas that I did. We'll continue to have 3 podcasts a week throughout the summer. So no changes there for us. Hope everybody's doing great. And we will talk to you guys again on Wednesday.